Hello everybody, Reggie Time here again with Patrick for the fifth episode in our Stepping Stones. It's been around 6 weeks since the last one, and in that time Patrick's been building his bankroll from 10 to start taking shots at 30, and as that's the next stepping stone, if you will, that's why we're making this video. He said to me he's not been too happy with his play at 30 so far, so hopefully we'll get to the bottom of that and maybe make a couple of videos at this before waiting for the last two episodes at 50. So without further ado, here's Patrick, and hopefully you can explain what problems you've been having or what's been going wrong with your play that you're not too pleased with.
Yeah, thanks, Reg. Just to clear that up, I think the biggest problem has been that I've been defending a little too wide out of position, I think. So I get into really marginal spots with regulars out of position, and in those positions we obviously tend to make mistakes like pretty easily.
So are you defending wider than you were defending at 10?
Yeah, about the same, I guess, but like my initial plan was to tighten up a little when taking a shot at 30. But yeah, I did a league finder for card runners, as you probably know.
Yeah.
And yeah, the coach said to me like, "You're too weak in some spots pre-flop." Like, I fold hands which I should open, and I was aware of that, but it's something I've been trying to work on. And it hasn't been, yeah, it's had mixed results, I guess.
Yeah, it's quite a big adjustment when you start changing your ranges. When you said you're too weak pre-flop, does it just mean that you're just not opening wide enough ranges from all positions, or was it certain positions, or were we being too cally, not three betting enough? What was his? How did he define your being too weak?
Yeah, it was mainly with pre-flop calling, I think. This one I'm going to 3-bet for value against UTG.
I don't like our sizing.
You don't?
No, we made that less than
don't
seven.
like this one.
We made that less than 7 blinds. When we're three betting versus under the gun, I understand they've min raised, but I mean we're repping quite a lot of strength there, and we don't want to be giving them too good a price to call. And then kind of we're almost not over repping our hand because of course we're not as strong. But by the same token, I mean, it's something I talk about. I think I've talked about with you before. I talk about with everybody. We shouldn't be making our raise sizings and bet sizings in relation to the villain's open size or the villain's bet size, because then we end up making mistakes and making our bets and raises too small. I wouldn't 3-bet less than 4x versus a min raise when I'm going to be out of position, because I want to charge a premium for them to see the flop in position with me, particularly when it's someone who's raised under the gun, where they expect to get called a lot more because their range is going to be tighter. So yeah, I'm really not one for just 3-betting to 6x or 7x from when I'm out of position. I think it's too small. They're giving people too much of a good price to continue in the hand, and have a huge advantage over us post flop, because position, I mean, even if unless we've got like a hand like aces or kings there, when we have a hand like ace queen, we're just going to get in too many tricky spots post flop, and we haven't really got enough value pre flop or charged our opponent enough money to be able to put us in those positions. That's something I always talk about with people, and it's something that I don't think too many people do, because I see tons of people making these small 3-bets out of position, and I think they're making a mistake unless you've got incredibly good post flop skills. I think you're making a mistake because it's just very hard to play out of position. And it's even harder in 3-bet pots, and it's even harder still when we have hands that when we have pre-flop hands that only really make something we can continue for value with around 30% of the time. So yeah, I love the 3-bet, but I would have made it bigger just to make it more expensive for him to have the luxury of position on us.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense, and this is also something we've discussed before in episode 4, I think.
Yep.
Then still, yeah, hands like ace queen off and suited and stuff, out of position, I still find them like pretty hard to play. And yeah, as you said, didn't expect to pick this up with ace king.
No. Well, the better we play pre-flop.
While you were talking, we also.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Go on. What are you going to say?
Yeah, while you were talking, I had the 8-9 hand there. Maybe it's a good idea to pull it back again.
Yeah, possibly we
So I'm
could,
going to
because to be
call
honest
this
with you,
ace four.
I wasn't really paying too much attention. It was too much in my monologue mode.
No, that's fine, but yeah, I think we played that one fine, though. Once he checks here, I know this guy is pretty loose on the button, so I expect him to not have too much, so I'm going to stab in order to try to pick it up. And he raises. Well, that's fine, I guess. We're just going to fold.
That line always looks
So
like bullshit to me. It really does.
yeah, it does, but what can we do, you know?
Just pull out just a little bit further, please, buddy. There
Yeah,
we go. Smash
that
into
should be
that.
fine, I guess.
Yep.
I think it's the 8-9. Yep. So we are in the small blind. This guy limps in. I don't think our hand is strong enough to actually pull that back. So I expect the big blind to be a weak player as well because he's not full stacked. So I decide 8-9 is fine, so I complete.
Yep.
I don't think it's strong enough to raise.
No,
Then
absolutely
we
not.
flop the open ender. So I think leading out here is fine.
Yep. I like it.
Guy calls. Then the ace. That's a little bit too fast, I think. But, yeah, the ace of spade rolls or the ace of clubs rolls off. We do have the backdoor flush draw, but it's probably not great. Then do you bet this turn?
Yeah, I do. We can get fold some better hands all the time here. And
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I mean, I'd be comfortable value betting a straight on the river if we made it two. So yeah, if we get called
Yeah, me
here,
too.
I wouldn't bluff the river. I would just give up. If I don't hit the river, I'm betting here. If I hit a straight or a flush and value betting the river, you're expecting to have one pair a lot of the time. Yeah, like a weak king, some kind of 10x, that kind of thing. Maybe even a 7, depending on how poor he is. So I wouldn't try and bluff him on the river if we don't improve, but I'd feel comfortable value betting if we improved on the river, even to a flush. I'd probably rather hit the straight than the flush, but I'd feel comfortable bet folding a flush on the river too. So yeah, I would absolutely
Right.
bet here.
So what happens is that he actually min raises us here, and
I
I
would
think
probably
we're done
just
with
fold
the
now.
hand.
Yeah, I would just fold
Yeah.
now.
That's what I figured because
Be
once
done
he
with
min
it.
raises here, I mean, like it's so ugly. There's pretty much no implied.
But I think the only way we win the
Uh,
hand is if he's got Jack Queen doesn't have a club. That's the only way we can still win the hand, I think.
Pretty much, yeah.
And no, it's just a bad spot now, so I would just fold and I have no problem with it.
Okay, so we are on the same page on this
Yep.
one. So I think we can continue then. I've also noticed like my flop C betting could be a point where I should like improve on.
So how much of your game do you think has changed from the 10-0 game that was crushing? Because it's understandable people just play a little bit more timidly when they first move up, should I say. Well, so people can go one of three ways. They can just carry on playing normally and they're pretty much unfazed by it, or they can play a little bit too timidly, or I guess they can go the other way to prove that they're not scared and go a little bit too aggressive. In what way would you say your game's changed, if it has at all, for the move up? And let's play this
Yeah,
Queen's hand first. Let's finish this. Concentrate on your Ace Queen, then we can talk about it.
right. Well, I mean, this is pretty standard, I guess.
Yep, certainly was.
And this is also pretty standard. But yeah, what I think has changed is I don't feel like the game is super different from 10 and L. The only thing that is really different is that there are more regs and there are better regs. And that's probably the biggest adjustment you have to make. Like at 10 and L, the regs, I wasn't losing money to them. And I think I need to improve my game a little to not be losing too much to the ones at 30 and L as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's some good regs at 30 now. There's a player called Prince Kassad who I think is definitely one of the best 30 now regs when I'm not playing. That was a little bit big-headed, but I say it anyway for the crack. Who else do I think's good from 30 and L? Sometimes some 50 L regs will drop down, and but they don't play all the time. But 30 L isn't particularly aggressive from my experience, and I like that 3-bet size much better. What's your plan if you get 4-bet here by Johnny River? Do we know anything about him?
No, I don't know anything about him, but I think our hand is, yeah, I'm just jamming there all the time. with queens if he four bets. Don't really like this flop, though. I think we should see bet it. Probably don't even have to make it too big. I think half pot is fine. I would go that sizing with an ace as well. And then he min raises. It's pretty interesting because I don't think he should do this with an ace.
Well, he shouldn't, but we don't know how good or bad he is if we don't know. I mean, he could just be like
Right.
min raising to find out where he's at with ace jack, something like that. He might just be try to pot control and get himself a cheap showdown. But either way, we can't really continue there. I mean, that would be really exploitable.
Yeah.
If people were always doing that kind of thing. But they're just not, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. Yeah, of course it's frustrating. But do I think he's doing that with a hand like 2 9s or 2 8s very often? It's hard to say because we don't know him, but the general population won't be. The general population will be calling or folding with underpairs there.
Okay, so we see about this flop. Pick up the hard draw now, so we're continuing here.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of continuing with semi-bluffs on ace high boards because I think we get called too often because they've got the ace too often. I may have just taken a free card there. As it happens, it works out. But the problem with the 3 is it shouldn't give us much fold equity. If he's got an ace, he's not folding it, for example. Now, if that was, say, I don't know, 10 high board or a jack high board or something, then and it come as like an ace, king, or a queen on the turn that was a heart, I would double barrel it all day because it's an overcard. We pick up some extra fold equity, we can rep it, etc. And we also pick up some pot equity. But I'm just not fond of trying to bluff people on ace high boards once they get called because I just think too often they have some crappy ace and they're just not in the business of folding it. So I wouldn't have double barreled there in that spot. I understand why you did because you picked up the heart draw, but picking up pot equity whilst not increasing our fold equity kind of puts us in a similar spot to on the flop. Because at least now we've got a draw, but yeah, I don't think we get any folds. So I mean, as it happens, we did get a fold there, but I wouldn't have barreled there. But I understand why you did. But I think when we're semi-bluffing, we need to be aware of the bluff part needs to work a decent amount. It's no good just bluffing equity if we're literally never getting folds. Now, it used to say, obviously we did get a fold there, so we can't say we're never getting folds. But on ace-high boards, I don't think they're the best boards to start running double and triple barrel bluffs on. I think once we get called on flops, we should probably, especially when we've got the power of position. Anyway, let's have a look at this spot, because here's Prince Kassad. He's a good player.
So I don't think it makes any sense to 3-bet in that spot.
I don't think it makes sense to 3-bet, but I wouldn't have minded you donking there, because I just don't think Kassad's going to c-bet in this spot without having a good hand. So I wouldn't have blamed you for donking there, because now we're in a situation where we're like check guessing.
Yeah, we're going to call this one, see what happens.
Donking in multi-way pots with hands like 10s on this kind of board I think is really good, because Kassad just cannot get out of line versus us. If he raises us, he's just got an overpair or better. Now we're just going to like check call down, and we're going to hope that Jake's somehow got a 9, I guess.
Well, run out is fine, I guess.
It's a good run out for us.
Not folding on this run out. Bet small 3 times. I think I recall he did that earlier in the hand with me. Can't exactly remember what he had, but I'm never folding here.
That's unfortunate that he rivers us. It just goes to show something that we've talked about a lot, though, that people double barrel quite a lot with not wide ranges, but they'll do it quite wide-ish. But the third barrel usually means strength, in my opinion, in these games. So it's unfortunate there that he set a price that we couldn't really fold to. But yeah, I would have actually donked that flop, because multi-way pots are significantly different. I mean, heads-up pots I would never donk unless it's a terrible player. But in multi-way pots we have to start doing our own betting, and that was a great flop for us where we could have got a bunch of value. Yeah, we still would have lost the hand because this donkey would have just called, so we probably would have lost more money because we'd have made more appropriate bet sizes. But don't be worried about just never donking. I think it's fine to donk in multi-way pots, just because we cannot rely on the c-bet to c-bet anywhere. Sorry, on the raiser to c-bet anywhere near enough. And when you do c-bet, they're usually going to be doing it with a much stronger range than they typically c-bet with.
Yeah, that
Does
does
that
make
make
sense.
sense?
I actually like donking the 10 as well, yeah.
So I would actually have donked there, just because there's two fish in the pot I can get value from, and I know Kassad has to play really straight up against me. And you're kind of forcing him to actually just play honestly.
Kind of flat call here with Jack 10 suited on the button. It's quite loose against the UTG, I think, but
This
yeah,
Prince
it
Kassad plays a
plays
lot,
really
by the
well.
way. I'm not sure he might be one of these. I wouldn't be surprised if he's some kind of bot because he plays a heck of a lot. So it might be worth long
He,
term looking into Kassad and see if he's got anything exploitable in there you can just try and get wired into. He might not be a bot. I'm not trying to slander the guy or anything like that, but he plays long, long, long hours. Typically longer than you'd expect a lot of humans to play. So you get a sample on him quite quick. So he'd be one of the first players if I was you. I'd be doing some database work on.
I'm gonna raise this
I'm
one
not
up.
convinced by that. I think too
You're
often here
not
we're going to go three ways and we're going to just hit flops that we hit,
like that.
like that one.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that
I
does
would be
make
happy
sense.
just I would be happy just to complete there.
You would just limp. Yeah, I think that's actually better as well. Yeah, because well, yeah, now they check. We're still like we can't do anything but check here and just pray that it goes to showdown and we have the best hand because we're getting a really good price here with deeper stacks. I'm gonna call here and I'm going to fold here. So yeah,
Not much
I
a really
think
big open from this guy. I'd be keeping this hand open till the end and hoping it went to showdown to see what someone's opening 4.5x with under the gun. So we're going to hope this hand goes to showdown because that's definitely that there'll definitely be some kind of sizing telling this.
I'm not continuing. Obviously, we're gonna keep it open. There it is. Let's see if we can have a look at it. It's a little bit too big, isn't it?
Yep, that's fine like that. So he's c-bet the king XX dry and he's checked the turn.
It's interesting.
Check,
Gonna
check.
check back.
My guess would be something like pocket queens here right now. Or king queen, some kind of weak, not weak king, but when he checks the turn, it's unlikely to put him on ace king, for example. You'd be surprised if someone has ace king and takes that line.
So let's see. This is limped. I think I can call one. See what happens. Queen Jack. Big blind seems to be a weaker play. If it's suited, I would probably open it from MP. I think. Wow, he just 4.5x ace Jack and bombed it 4-way.
And then
Having a
some
good
guy
shot.
just flatted his c-bet with a cut shot. And those guys are probably,
Interesting.
it's people say poker's dead, and then you see people still making mistakes like that. So that's something I'd note at the end. I wouldn't necessarily note it now when you're playing, but things like that are really interesting that people don't call because when he bets that flop that big, and we got somebody just like calling it, not closing the action with just a gut shot. Yeah, it's good things to know. It means we can adjust our value betting size. Why didn't we three bet the jack set? I've seen us three bet queens, I've seen us three bet ace queen. Why didn't we three bet the jacks? What do you know about Colin that makes you not want to three bet?
I'm typically not a fan of stacking off pre with jacks, and I know you are. But I personally never do that.
There's not so much of a
And
fan
I
of
don't
it.
think
I was
it's a
just
huge
asking
mistake.
more because I've seen you three bet twice now in this exact same spot, and Jack's is right in the middle of the two other hands that you three bet. So I was just wondering why you
Right.
chose not to three bet this one, but you did the ace queen.
Yeah, the ace queen is pretty hard, I think. Wow, he just absolutely bombs it here on the river. What is his range gonna be here when he makes a 3x under the gun? Bets, bets, bets.
But
He could have some
it looks a lot like
busted
we have a
flush draws,
queen,
but
and it looks a lot like he doesn't give a shit that we've got a queen.
yeah,
To me, that's what it looks
indeed.
like to me.
Uh, I wasn't thinking of calling here yet, but I personally think he is like. I can't really put him on a range, but I'm pretty sure he has us crushed.
Probably. It's just,
And
I think
yeah,
the
I'm just gonna
question
fold.
there
But
is if we jam, how often do we get him off ace queen or better? That's just one pair. I think that's the question there. And we don't know enough about Colin to
Yeah,
know that. But
I don't
if I
know.
was going to put any more money in that pot, I would put it in by shoving, just to try and make him fold an overpair. But on that board, I don't think it's going to work because every draw's missed. So I wouldn't do that. But I would rather shove than call. I think shoving would be better than calling there. But I think folding's clearly a better option than both of them by some way.
Yeah, I don't like that too much.
No, I
So
don't like. No, I don't
we're
like
talking
it.
about pre-flop,
I would. Oh, that was pre-flop, yeah. So because we three bet the ace queen suited one of the first hands, which I didn't have a
right?
problem with. Then we three bet the queens, which I clearly have no problem with. And I have no problem with flatting the jacks. So I'm not saying you should three bet it. I just wonder what your rationale was behind three betting ace queen and pocket queens, and then all of a sudden jacks becomes a call.
Right, and that was what I was trying to explain. Because when I get four bets, I five bet my queens, and I typically don't five bet my jacks unless I have a note that someone stacks off light.
So when you three bet the
And
ace
three
queen
bet
suited,
folding, yeah, that's gonna be pretty disgusting. Yeah, I was going to fold that ace queen,
I mean,
so
I
I
have no
actually
problem
turned it
with
into
three
four
betting
bet.
any of those hands, and versus under the gun, I have no problem with calling them versus the 3x, but I think versus the min raise. Um, and maybe that's the difference too. Maybe the other two were min raises, and this was the 3x, so that maybe that played into your thought
No, it's
process too.
just I'm really comfortable with like jamming my queens pre, but I'm basically never jam my jacks pre unless
Wow,
I have a note on someone. Wow, this is a limp
that is a big limb
raise.
raise.
Yeah, well, we're not going to defend to that. It's
No,
interesting though. Certainly got some interesting stuff to review afterwards, anyways.
yeah, these games at the minute,
Uh,
I
I'm
think,
gonna
to be
fold
fair,
here.
we're playing at one of the worst times to play. We're playing at like 1 p.m. GMT, which means most of the fish in these games, which are Western European players, aren't here yet. These games are really good in the evening when you just load the lobby up and you just can't move for British flags and German flags and things like that. Yeah, so I rarely played these games during the day because I think there's a significant difference in quality of games once you get to 7 p.m. GMT. I think the games change significantly. I think you could be a two big blind 100 winner at say this time of day, maybe three, and I think you could be a 7 or 8 blind 100. I think it's that different. I think it's that different, and it really is an absolutely enormous difference. Because right now there's going to be lots of Eastern European players on, professional players on, and not too many full-on recreational players. Whereas at 7 o'clock there's a lot more recreational players.
I'm gonna have to disagree on that. Yeah, I'm not
Ah,
going
right,
to
okay.
forward this because there's actually a lot of Australian players online at the moment, and at this time of the day, I feel like it's probably like midnight or something there because I've had like really good 10NL games playing at this time of the day, and also early in the morning. Like there's a lot of. I actually think the games are softer than let's
Yeah, in the
say
morning, I would say
6 or
from say
7 GMT.
7 a.m. GMT through to maybe 11, 12 a.m., maybe 11 o'clock, I would agree because you have got a bunch of Australians on. Um, if I can play in a pool with 5 or 6 Australians, I'm all over it. No offence to Australian players, we've got some in our study group, but they're very similar to UK players. You can generally assume they're going to be bad until proven otherwise. But let's just pull the lobby up for a moment then and just see exactly how the games are breaking down by nation. And I know it's not all going to fit in the screen, but if we can fit the bit in that's important, then that'll do.
I'm gonna sit out real quickly then.
Because I think
Uh,
choosing when to grind, so someone like yourself who's got a lot of spare time, I think choosing your times to grind and when to do something else is going to be quite important. But I always
so I
found
decided to defend here.
yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
fine against the
obviously
min
giving up
raise.
now. Yeah, I think it's plus EV to defend.
But I used to do a lot of work in looking at when my most profitable times were. And through the day, wasn't it? So if you like search, if you go to the next to the player name bit in the lobby, that
Right.
little blank square on the left hand side. Nope, not that
That
one.
one?
To the other side. Nope. There.
This one?
No. The little
This one.
that's it. That there. You can
Oh, there we
sort
go.
by flags, as you can see. Usually at 7 o'clock, that whole window there is just full of. Oh wow, there is a lot of Australians, isn't there?
Right. And
Yeah,
there's some Chinese, and most of them are,
there is a lot of
at
Australians
least
there.
at 10 and 0. They're not too brilliant, the Chinese. That's what I
Because I
think.
was never seeing that when I was playing. Maybe that's changed recently. Because I was never seeing that. All I was seeing was seeing lots and lots of Ukrainians and Russians and
It's the same
Belarusians.
for 10 and 0, actually. Like, there's a lot of UK and Australians. And this is something I've noticed before as well.
If you did log in and you didn't see too many British and Australian players, would you then still play, or would you think, well, maybe I'll do something now, save my mental energy for when the pool looks better? Is monitoring the pool quality something you do before you play?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Especially now when I'm playing 30 and 0, or at least shot taking. If the pool looks bad, I pretty much just decide to play 10 and 0, unless it seems better to me.
So you don't just
And what I
decide, tell you
was,
what, I won't play now. I'll rearrange my day schedule to. You say you plan to go to the gym at, I don't know, in 3 hours. Would you ever just say, tell you what I'll
right.
do, I'll go to the gym now and I'll play poker later? Would you ever do something like that,
Yeah,
or not?
yeah, I would definitely.
Good stuff.
Because I'm always looking for like the best games to play in.
Good stuff.
I mean, like I've played at iPoker, as you know, and yeah, that will really like open my eyes how soft 888 actually is.
Yeah, it's incredibly soft compared to any other speed pool anywhere.
Oh, we flop a set here. Gonna bet quite big here and get a fold.
And just for anyone
That's
that
fine,
was
I think.
paying attention there to the lobby, um, Patrick isn't playing these games off that bankroll. He's actually in the process of moving money from various sites and combining his roll into one. In case anyone thinks that we both think it's a good idea to play 30NL off $250, that isn't the case. And right at the start, I said you'd managed to build your roll, and then it looked like you didn't there. It looked like we were telling fibs. But we're not telling fibs. Patrick is consolidating his bankroll at the moment all to one site, which is why he
Yeah,
is rolled for the games.
that's right. I've still got some euros on call left. I've got like $300 in stars now, I think, which I'm planning to cash out whenever I can. It's probably going to take a couple of days, and I've also got some money left in my net seller in Skrill. This is a small 3-bet. I've got to peel that.
Exactly, and this is
Flop
what I was saying
rags.
earlier. This is exactly the point I was making to you earlier. Is it was a small three bet, and I wouldn't check here. I would just triple barrel. Once he checks that flop, I mean, wow, he's made an enormous bet there. I mean, we have to fold now, but I would just triple barrel
Yeah,
there.
I would actually stab like on a lot of flops where I have some sort of equity, but apart from like the two overs, which we're even unsure of if they're going to be good, I don't like it too much because once we get called, yeah, we pretty much have nothing to
I would
back us
just
up.
triple barrel small. I would just go like just like less than half pot, slightly less than half pot, and then probably go for a big bomb on the river because I mean, yeah, it looked like there, like he was maybe going for check raise in the flop with his turn sizing. But it's something we don't typically see. We see when we see people three bet pre-flop, then check those boards more often than not. They check folding, and at the moment we only have population reads. Although I accept now this Colin character is someone I wouldn't mind having a quick look at in your database if you think you have enough hands on him, because he seems quite bad aggressive to me. And it's important to if we start getting a sense that someone's a certain style just on over one session before we start making some wild adjustments, I think we should probably just go and do a little bit of research on him and just see how his stats are shaping up. But I don't know if you'll have enough
Yeah.
hands on him to do that. Were you aware of him before today's session?
I don't think so, no. And
Because he's
the
given us.
problem also is that I only have like 3,000 hands in total.
No, I appreciate that, but if you've only got 150 hands on him, if he's playing
Right.
something like I expect him to be playing, we can certainly start making reads because he strikes me as a sort of player who, if he's bad aggressive, he said like if he's a bad aggressive fish, he could easily be playing something like 50/35, and it's important to know that. Or it might just be that he's a quite a good lag, and we just ran into him a few times when he's actually had hands or had playable hands. So therefore, we can just we know, just rather than just taking wild punts on thinking he's bad, just go and check: is he actually bad, or
Exactly.
is it just a matter of we've just managed to catch him when he's been being aggressive? Because it could just be that he's 1916 and we've just managed to unfortunately run into the top of his range all the time. But we need to go and look at that because it's dead easy for players like him to get under our skin and us to make mistakes against him before we've done our research. So if I was playing
Yeah,
this
that does
session
make a lot
now,
of sense.
I would be actually just quickly opening my Hold'em manager because I know you've got it running and search for him and just do a very quick search on the run just for this session just to see if there's any adjustments worth making this session. And then I would, after the session, if I had, say, 500 hands on him, I would then go and look into him a little bit deeper. It just saves you
That
making any
does make
horrible
sense.
adjustments on the run.
I actually can see if we can. I'm gonna pull Holder Manager on my second screen for a moment, so you won't be able to see it. But...
No problem. No, we don't need to see it. It's just I think it's work that's worth
Right.
doing. Because it's got in our way twice now aggressively. And it's not something you
It
see
does make
too
a lot
often.
of sense, yeah, and it's something I've actually never done before, like just using
I mean, it
Holder
just stops you
Manager
making
while
some
playing.
horrible adjustments. That's all it stops you making.
Right. Let's see if I can find it. Now I'm really multitasking. Gonna see bet here. Don't think he's. Yeah.
No, I think we can definitely get called by worse there as well. If he's
Yeah.
got a hand like 2 8s, 2 9s, 2 7s, there's every chance he might peel one.
Let's see if I can pull the hand up. Come on. There it is. Hold the manager's still loading it. I'm just going to check here.
That's the problem with
I
Hold'em
think when
Manager 2, which is why I still use Hold'em Manager 1 on this site, because it just runs faster for doing this kind of thing. I actually used to use Hold'em Manager 1 in the middle of hand sometimes. If I had a good time bank, I would just use my time bank and I would go into it and I would just take my time. And I think that's why my win rate was really quite good in these games, because I am quite anal about stuff like that.
What do you think of this 9-8? Should we have like bet anywhere in the hand?
Yeah, I guess we could have. The way the hand played down, I think once it checks twice, I would probably just bet the
Right.
turn and then maybe bet the river too.
Well, one knee limps 8-9 off blind versus blind. I would happily play 10-9 off in position against him. Again, we don't really flop too great. We're just going to give up. So yeah, we only have 3 hands on that guy.
Ah,
you
right,
mentioned
okay.
earlier.
In that case, then it's completely
We
worthless.
can actually pull it up. You're not able to see it like that, of course. But
No.
yeah, as it says, yes, yeah, we have 3 hands on him, and my computer is freezing right now.
Mhm.
Oh god,
That's what
Holder
happened.
Manager.
That's what happens when we dick around with Hold'em Manager. Hold'em Manager 2 is a fantastic piece of software, but it's way too resource hungry.
Yep, I can't click anything at 888 right now, which is frustrating.
Sorry for asking you to
So
do
I'm
that,
probably
buddy.
gonna have to try Holder Manager to shut down now. It is a pretty resourceful program, by the way, indeed.
I really
But I still
like it.
think
I like
it
all,
is
I love all the
inevitable to have.
features it's got. I really do love all the features, but it's just
There we go.
it hogs way too much of your resource. The minute I turn it on, my computer just starts like humming at me. Yeah, so it's a shame. If I could go back in time, I'd probably just be a poker tracker man. But I loved Hold'em Manager 1. Fortunately,
So
that's
I'm
not
just
an
gonna
issue
have
for me
it
these
loading
days
up.
because I play on Sky, and Sky doesn't let us have any tracking software, so it's not an issue for me now.
How do you feel about playing without tracking software, though? I mean, like, not having a HUD isn't really a problem, but especially for a guy like you who actually tries to get any sort of income from poker, I can imagine it's hard to, like,
I think there's
not
two
being
issues. I
able
think
to track it.
it's a double-edged sword because I'm led to believe Hold'em indicator works, but I'm loath to use it because um, basically it's cheating. It's the Sky don't allow it. So yeah, if everyone else is using it and I'm the only idiot not using it, maybe that's a problem. I did try to ask Sky if it was allowed because it was difficult to tell by their terms of service. So I messaged their forum and I was told no, it's definitely not allowed. But I'd be stunned if players aren't using it. So I might be putting myself at a disadvantage versus regulars. But by the same token, I just start my own tables on there usually. I get to play with three fish usually most of the time. So I'm not too bothered if regulars are using it and having a slight advantage over me. I don't really care very much. I'm only 2 to 4 tabling. I can pay as much attention as I need to. So it doesn't bother me too much. Would I rather have a HUD? Yes. But the fact that HUDs don't exist on Sky is probably what makes it so soft. So probably overall, I'm glad they don't exist. I just hope I'm not being the only moron out of all the regulars who aren't just using one anyway.
Right.
Which I suspect I could be, but I'm not going to get into that. I mean, I've gone out on a limb many times on different forums, saying how outrageous it is that people use all these different bits of software that are against terms of service. It'd be very hypocritical of me to then go ahead and use it. So I don't. I'm sticking to my principles, even though I suspect it's costing me money. But
Gonna
when you're in
fold the
my
queen
position
10
and
against the
you want to
regular.
have a good reputation for being a guy of integrity, you don't want to be using tracking software on sites that have it banned. But I know it also works on Unibet because I've been told it works on Unibet. Um, so yeah, I presume people are using it, but no, it's not for me.
No, that does make a lot of sense. So we had some spots while we were talking again.
Yep, the tens I thought was a
Um,
decent fold. I
yeah,
think we have to jam or fold there, and jamming just seems horrendous. So folding, I think it's a reasonable option because I just don't think people are squeezing very light in these games. Yes, it
especially
happens.
when under the gun min raises and he like makes it 5 times his size.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just have to fold there.
Yeah, it's tight, but I think it will save you money on the long run when
It
you do
will,
that.
but if min raises are getting more and more frequent in these games, so I think we just have to start almost treating min raises like limps and three betting a lot wider. I mean, I might three bet tens versus if I thought somebody frequently min raised wide ranges, I would start just three betting tens myself because otherwise we do get put in that spot way too often, where someone might just squeeze there with nines or with ace jack or something like that, and we're going to get blown off a lot of equity a lot of the time. I mean, I was talked about this a
Interesting
while
line
ago
here
with
once again.
yeah, I talked about this quite a while ago with a very good player who used to play 200 net on Poker Stars. And I said to him, in modern games now, can we start treating like min raise and 2.5x raises like limps? And he said, no, not quite, because obviously, it does affect. I mean, if you're doing that, effectively, you're just playing 50 blinds deep all the time, which makes sense. But against a lot of players who we know who are opening for a min raise from every position and they're opening really quite wide from every position, then I think we can start putting tons of pressure on them by three betting them. And we don't have to three bet them big because all we're trying to do is achieve a little bit of isolation against a wide range. So if people I see frequently min raising under the gun, and I know their range is like all pocket pairs, suited connectors, maybe down as low as like 8-9 suited, that type of thing, I will absolutely start three betting them with hands like pocket tens, pocket jacks, ace queen, and it's for value because otherwise the pots aren't big enough. We're not seizing the initiative enough in pots. We're not being aggressive enough. We're not asking enough questions. We're not putting people to the test, and we end up just being really passive, and I don't like that. So maybe that's something you can start doing when people min raise rather than calling. Start three betting or folding more maybe. We can call some of the time, but start like three betting a little bit wider for value, and start three betting maybe just a little bit more as a bluff, and just start and create some sort of aggressive image against players who are min raising a lot. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world that we can be doing. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but it seems to me like it's a good adjustment instead of just calling a min raise with pocket tens and folding to squeezes. I think three betting in them situations is going to be better for us than just calling all the time.
Yeah, I kind of tend to agree, but tree betting like widely is pretty hard here at 888 because I feel like it is very villain dependent at first, and of course we don't have the HUD, we don't have folded tree bet
No.
stats, we don't have opening ranges.
Well, people are going to fold to
So
3-bets a lot more because they're min raising, and then our raise are going to be smaller. I'm not saying we have to 3-bet to 9x, but if we see somebody who min raises their entire range under the gun, I think we can make it 7x, 7.5x in position, and get a bunch of calls from a lot of worse hands. So I'm doing it primarily for value because
right,
I'm going to look at their range and I think, right, they're going to call with most everything. They're going to 4-bet me with ace, king, and maybe queens plus, maybe jacks plus. So I'm not worried when I get 4-bet. I'm not worried about getting 4-bet bluffed, but I know I can get absolutely tons of value because they're going to call a lot because they're min raise, we made it 7x. That dynamic leads people to call, defend a heck of a lot of the range. So I'm just doing it purely for value. And if I get 4-bet, well, fine, I'm happy to fold. It's not a big deal to me. I just think it's a better option than just constantly calling and then going multi-way. Because that's what happens with a lot. When someone min-raise under the gun, we call, we end up usually playing our hand four-handed. And if we don't flop a set, we usually end up giving up. I just don't think it's a good use of 2 10s.
debating whether to call here. I think that's fine. I think in position we can peel with pocket fours against the UTG, who's probably
I think you're absolutely
playing
right.
bigger pairs. I'm not folding on this board, obviously. Does he start betting again here? He doesn't. I feel like he can have like a lot of broadways here, which are just going to fold.
I like that bet.
When he continues betting, though, we do spike a straight on the river. It's not the greatest because it completes the flush, but
I think we can
I'm
go for some
certainly
thin value
betting
here.
for
I wouldn't
value
go.
here.
I wouldn't go too big because it's going to be. We think he's quite weak. I think that's too big personally.
You do?
Yeah, I think he's probably got a hand like 9s, 10s, something like that. And so we want to make sure we get the call. The bigger we bet, the harder we make it for him to bluff catch us.
That's also something I need to work on, like my river sizings, because I see more and more people like betting small on rivers in order to like force crying calls, and I just generally like
But it's
tend
just
to
when we bet
bomb for
6 there,
value.
what are you hoping to get called from?
Yeah, and those are questions I need to be asking myself.
Rather than just saying,
Because if
oh,
he
I think
calls
I've
here
got
with
the
pocket tens, that's with kings, that's
kings
great.
there. Wow, wow, wow. We possibly could have got slightly more value there, but I didn't expect him to be as strong as kings. I mean,
No, neither did I.
that's an absurd check on the turn. That check is absurd. And that's
But then again,
something you should absolutely be noting at some point. Not saying you should do it now,
right,
but
yeah, and
that is
that's
very
just
noteworthy.
I need to like work through my database with like the limited sample I've got already. I'm going to check back here because I don't think anything better folds, anything worse calls. When he bets half pots, he can stab like with a lot here. I think we can actually call here once. It's not the greatest of cards. This is blind versus blind. Interesting. Once he bet half pot again, the queen isn't really a great card for us. Flush draw also completes. Jack 9 gets there, which seems unlikely. King Jack, no. King Jack
I think it's
doesn't.
just too likely he's going to go.
Yeah,
He's going for
I'm
value
gonna
there.
fold there, and I'm gonna call here. And he has Jack 7. Wow. And he gets there.
Nope, we get there.
We do, yeah.
Come on, sir. Sort your all-in stuff out.
Yeah, there's so much going on there in my head at the moment. Like, don't blame me. I'm sorry.
So I'm just teasing, buddy. Just
Right.
teasing.
It's just Holder Manager and note making. I just really need to like work my stuff through, I guess.
Yeah, well, just
It's
don't
pretty
do your
funny
notes
that
now.
people are shoving Jack
just
7
literally-
off blind versus blind.
Just don't do your notes now. Don't try and make notes on the run. If you have a note that you really feel you need to make, then just sit out and make the note.
Actually gonna call here. Because if I 3-bet any flats, we're going to be pretty disgusted on boards like this. I was obviously when I 3-bet and he 4-bets, I'm going to call, but this is just like not great for us. Once he checks, though, I feel like he's pretty weak, and we can pick up the pot here quite often. And then he calls. There's still stuff we beat here, I think, like busted flush draws, busted straight draws. Is he going to bluff those at the river? I don't know, because I don't know the guy. And I think even when he checks back, we can have like the best hand here, like
We
a
can have
lot
the
of the
best
time.
hand if he checks, I think. When he bets, I wouldn't really be looking
Yeah,
to
I'm
call.
not going to look
I
him
wouldn't
up.
have bet the turn though, because you said I'm betting to pick up the pot, which effectively means I'm betting to make him fold a worse hand, which I don't like. So I would have just, if I wanted to put more money in the pot on that turn, I would have rather checked and called a bet than I would have by betting. Because all we achieve by betting is making fold. And yeah, we then win the hand, but we've just made him fold a worse hand. That's all we've achieved.
Right,
Um,
but he can like fold to random, or he can fold the 6-outers in his equity share with those,
well, he can,
which
but a
is a good
six outer's
result
only
for
got
us.
like four. It's only got 14% with a six outer though.
Yeah,
It's not
that
like
does
he's
make
going to
sense.
hit it very often, and he might bluff if we check twice. I think our hand plays much better there as a bluff catcher than it does just betting to make him fold some small pieces of equity.
It is right that he doesn't, even if he has a 6-outer, he doesn't have too much equity. So, but do you agree with the pre-flop plan though? Because I wouldn't mind 3-betting and calling his 4-bet off, but when he flat
Yeah.
calls my 3-bet, like on that board, that particular board that we got, like we're going to be pretty disgusted when
Well,
he
I
has
would
like,
just three bet a size where I could just jam the flop because he had like $12, didn't he? So
I
I
think
would have
even
three.
less.
No, I think he had about 12 left. So I would have three bet something huge because he like 3x'd it, didn't he? I think. So I would have made it like 360, something like 390 because he's going to be bad. He's got no money. He's got like starting with a less than 50 blind stack. So I would just three bet to like 390. So there's going to be like 8 in the pot. He's going to have 8 left then. I'm just going to shove any flop, and that's the way I'm going to take that line against someone like that. I'm going to hope a hit, obviously. Why did he just call? Did we bluff catch yet, or did he call with nothing then? I didn't quite notice
No,
what
we
happened.
bluff catched him there.
Ah, right, okay.
I can actually pull that one back
So yeah,
and
with the ace
explain
queen
what I
to answer
thought
your
there.
question, I would three bet to such a size that hopefully makes him four bet jam pre-flop because I don't really want him to call, but I want to set up it so at least if he does call, I could just shove for pot on the flop rather than over bet shove. So I would have three bet, but would have three bet absolutely huge.
Right. We can actually have a look at that one as well, I think. But I think we can roll this one off
Yep.
first.
Okay.
So I think pre-flop is pretty standard. He calls, which is fine, I think. I decided not to c-bet here. I think I actually could c-bet.
Yeah, I think we should see bet because we have no showdown
Yeah,
value and we can rep
right.
the ace pretty hard.
Indeed. I agree on that. Should have c-bet there. Then the king doesn't really change a ton for us, but it goes check-check again. And I hit my jack on the river. I expect to be good here a lot. I don't think we can bet it for value. I think
No, we
it's like
can't.
more likely that he actually goes to bet and we can bluff catch with the jack.
I mean, we could get some thin value from like a 5 or a 4 or pocket 7 or something like that, but no, I think checking's fine too. I think we've always got the best hand, or usually got the best hand, but playing it as a bluff catcher rather than trying to get thin value from a hand like 7 or something, I think I prefer your line.
Yeah, I think when he has like 5 or 4x here, he should stab the flop. You don't think so? Or
I don't think he should. I think he might, but I don't think he should. Why would he want to stab the flop there with a 5 or a 4? I understand what you're going to say. It's to protect his equity, etc., etc. But it's not really worth protecting. You know, a crappy little pair of 5s. That's not something I'm going to start putting money in just to protect.
But
Because
yeah, we just said earlier on, right? Like when people like check out of position, they generally tend to give up.
yeah,
When he
and
bets here with 4x, and then
so
I fold
you
my
would give
equity
up
share.
here, and he would then win the pot. He would prevent you from hitting
Right.
your jack. But if he is in front on the flop, the most you're going to have is 25% equity. That's the most you're going to have. Sometimes you're going to have even less than that, depending on just how
Okay, yeah, that
awful
makes
your hand
sense.
is. If you've got pocket 2s, for example, you've only really got a good shot then. You've got to get 6 outer. So again, yeah, you might have around 25% equity with any 2 cards. But I'm not bothered about like c betting here with betting versus a C-bet with like a 5 or a 4, it's because you're going to be check calling too often with hands like queens, kings, jacks, things like that as well. So I wouldn't personally. I know people do. People love to probe bet. It's not something I like to do very much because I just don't think there's much call to do it. But let's look at this ace queen, 'cause I thought that was way more interesting.
Yeah, that's this one, I think.
Yeah, so he's starting with like less than 100
Yeah.
blinds. I would
Right,
have made
it's
this
a
like
little.
420, something like that. I know it's huge, I understand it's huge, but I want to avoid the situation you talked about, which was getting peeled and then having a
Right.
really awkward stack to pot ratio. So I want to try and make him commit. What I want to do is I want to make it big and I want him to shove. Like ace
I
jack,
think you
ace
need to go
10,
bigger than four
crap like
dollars.
this. Now if we make it 420 here, he calls us. That's going to be, he's
He's
going to
gonna
have
have like
another,
10 left. No, he's
he's
gonna
going to
have
be down to like, we're going
9
to be
left.
480, we make it 480, he calls, that's 960,
Yeah, then it's a pot
975 in
size.
the pot. So yeah, we're going to be like pot size bet for the flop. And then I would just look to be jamming any flop. I would hope to hit and jam, but I would, just going to jam any
Yeah, I
flop.
wouldn't. Right, because it's pretty much like we're wanting to get it on pre-flop, and then the flop isn't as relevant. It's
No, it's
obviously
not. I
nice when
mean,
you hit
we
it,
just
but
got like
yeah,
one pot sized bet left. He might just call with who knows what and then just fold anyway. And he's
exactly.
probably going to be bad because he's not playing any kind of like normal stack size. So we could just then ram and jam this, and I wouldn't care very much about it. Is it optimal? Probably not, but it's such a weird spot that yeah, we either have to do what you did, which is call and then just usually lose a small pot, or we could take the initiative, and just be aggressive with bad players and
Yeah,
just trust the fact that most of the time we're going to have the best hand and we're going to either get him to fold, which is not the worst result in the world when we're out of position with ace queen. We can get him to call with worse for sure. Sometimes we can get him to call with worse, or we can hit the flop and get him to call with worse than the flop. I just don't mind playing a big pot in this situation, basically.
no,
Um,
neither do I. But
but
yeah,
if
I
we make
thought
it,
like
if
we
we
had to
three
make
bet
it
to
like
two, yeah, if we three bet to 270 or something, it's going to leave it
that's
super awkward.
disgusting. Yeah,
Which is why I would make the extra large three bet pre, hoping it forces him to jam. Maybe it doesn't jam, at least it gives me a pot size jam on the flop then.
exactly. But I mean, you have to go like really, really big. You have to make
Yes.
it pretty close to $5 in
No,
order.
420 does the job. 420 does it just fine. 390 probably does it too. 394. We don't have to go to 5. You could even, depending on how bad you think he is. I mean, if he was like a real whale, you could even just say fuck it and jam, which is you need to know he's a real whale first. So I much prefer
Right.
the $4 three bet. But
Okay.
there's some players I played against in this games where I would happily jam ace queen there, and I would just know they'd call me with like ace eight suited and shit like that. Those
Yeah,
players
exactly.
exist,
I know.
but you need to know that first.
No, but as I said, I was happy to get it in there pre. I just thought I'd probably just miscalculated it then while I was playing the hand because I was actually thinking of like three betting and calling it off, but then I figured like the sizing wouldn't be too great.
No, which is
But
why we have to make unusual sizings, and yeah, no one likes doing that, but I think it's a better adjustment than just calling because you don't want to make a normal three bet size. If
yeah,
your only
I
reason to not make a three bet is if I make a normal size three bet, it puts me in an awkward spot, then make an
yeah, just
abnormal
bet it
size
bigger.
three bet instead.
Yeah,
Then you're not in an
I
awkward spot
completely agree
anymore.
on that. So I haven't really like had any super big pots yet.
No, but that's kind of snap for you. It's kind of feast or famine. Well, not just snap. It's any speed poker. It's kind of feast or famine. It's a series of big pots or really small pots. You don't play too many medium-sized pots in these games.
The ace comes on the flop. When we bet like that big, I think it's fine to see bet here. Actually, I don't like it too much because the only thing that's going to continue is the ace, I guess. He bets it. He probably does that pretty wide. He could like take a stab with like tens and jacks here and stuff. So I think we have to peel one.
Don't think he stabs too often with 10 George Jacks, to be honest with you. I think he's going to be quite polarised when he bets that flop, and usually to the ace.
Yeah, and now he just bombs it, and I'm going to give up. Uh, I think he can take a lot of stabs there when we just check that flop, though. But you don't seem to agree with me.
No, I don't. Not without knowing anything about him. I just think if he's in there with nines, tens, jacks, he's just happy to try and show his hand down, I think. I don't think he's going to stab there. I think he's going to stab with really small pairs. I think he's going to stab with air. I don't think he's jacks, tens. I don't think like tens and jacks are the sort of hands he's stabbing with. So I definitely disagree with the hands you said he could stab with, but I do agree that he can definitely stab with worse hands. Just not the actual hands you named. Well, this is going to be an interesting spot.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to check here.
Oh, I'd have gone for the donk again. I'd have gone for the donk again.
I did consider donking, but then again,
just because Bazza races looks like he might be a donkey, he might be a fish. So then we can get value, and we can't trust him to bet for us. But at least this way around, if Bazza now raises, we can probably fold. But now we're just like guessing. Again.
This is an okay player. Yeah, I think we can't really fold yet.
Seems to me like you put yourself in too many spots where you're guessing, check guessing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You seem to be lacking. You don't seem to be taking the initiative too often. Now I understand how donk betting isn't something we should be doing too often. So this spot's probably not fair to bring the point up. But overall, you are definitely. I think you're checking too often. I think you're not taking the initiative. You're not value betting thinly. You're not sort of like. I hate using the term because I don't mean it like this. But you're not like finding out where you are. You're not defining the hand or whatever you want to call it. I like this bet, by the way, because you can bluff catches all day without every draw missed. So I really do like that bet. In fact, I love that bet.
You called us off with A7. That's great.
So yeah, you are definitely, from just what I've seen this session, and it might not be what you're doing all the time, but when you're out of position, you are playing without the initiative too often, and it's really hard to do that. Because no limit hold'em. We don't have hands very often. Try and somehow find ways to take the initiative. Either by 3-betting pre a little bit more, by just not calling as wide out of position. Maybe we could have 3-bet the nines there. I don't think we should. I think calling's fine. But when we get a really good flop and it's multi-way and there's a potential fish in the pot, I'd prefer to take just don't get sucked too in by convention of, we must check to the raiser. That's bullshit. We can just do whatever the hell we want. I'm not saying we should always donk there, but multi-way with the guy who's got $24, so it's probably a fish, it's probably a good time to donk, because we need to do our own bidding sometimes, because otherwise we end up just checking and guessing, and it's never a nice place to be.
Yeah, and maybe that is actually the point where that's probably the thing I have to work on, and something that's easily fixable as well.
So the problem with donkeys,
yeah, we've pretty much nailed it with that.
Well, I hope
that's probably have been the problem so far.
Because the thing with donkeys is it's quite hard to balance, so that's why people don't like it very much. But if we're playing against players we don't give a flying, excuse my language, fuck about being balanced against, well then it doesn't matter, does it? I mean, if we're not bothered about being balanced against bad players, because why would you want to be? You want to be playing exploitably against bad players. We don't need to worry about being balanced. That means we can take unbalanced lines. Against regulars there, we might not ever want to donk 2 nines. But when the minute there's a fish in the pot and the board's really wet, all that crap goes out the window for me. It's just a matter of what's the best play in this exact situation. Fuck balance. I don't care about balance right now. There's a fish in the pot. I've got an overpair on a wet board. So I'm going to start doing my own betting. Because we need to make sure some bets are going in right now. Wow, interesting spot. Oh, easy fold. Now surely that's an easy fold now.
Yeah, my note doesn't say anything special about his pre-flop tendencies, so I'm going to try to watch this out, see what happens.
Well, Patriot, I'm surprised Patriot squeezed there versus, mind you, then again, Jiboko looks ridiculously strong, but yeah, that was interesting. Turbo folding jacks, welcome to modern poker. 8 years ago, that'd have been a fist bump. Get it in there, who cares?
Yeah,
but no, I think it was a fine fold.
Because we've discussed this before as well, you generally tend to stack off against unknowns with jacks, right?
That's a good question. 'Cause I don't like to have any rules. You know that. I don't have any standards
Right,
at
I
all,
do.
hardly. I really don't like having standards. In that spot there, I would have folded jacks for sure. Had Jiboko just gone all in and there'd been just say call 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 instead of call call squeeze, I might have flicked it in with the jacks. But when it goes squeeze and then Jiboko says, I don't care that you squeeze, I don't care that you're under the gun, I'm all in anyway. Then yeah, I would have folded. But had it had instead of if the button hadn't squeezed and he called instead, and Jiboko had just gone for this stupid silly overbet shove, I probably would have just gone all in as well and then just dealt with the consequences.
Yeah, against I don't know how to explain this. Like, you basically like teach your students to, as you mentioned, like don't have standards, and when something seems right, like just do it.
Yeah, and
But
I think
then,
standards they limit people's potential. They
yeah,
really
and I
do.
completely agree with you. Yeah, but like in this particular spot, it's like an easy fold. But sometimes you like
Yeah,
get those
I would
situations
have
with jacks
probably
where you're
called
like,
there had it not been
oh wow,
squeezed then four bet shoved. If that was just like a three bet shove, I would have called for sure.
this is interesting. He three X's. It's this is a regular. And fishy player min three bets. There's
I would
probably a
still
fish
just I
behind
would
this
still
one.
just fold because we don't know what
Yeah,
the reg's going to do.
that's what I
If
was
that
thinking.
if that other character had like $8, I may have just put a cold forward in and stacked off against the fish and folded to the regular. But because he had like $15 and his min three bet, it's just too likely he's going to have aces or something. It's just too big a mistake. But if he only had like $7 or something like that, then I would maybe just have flicked it in, or put a four bet in and played for stacks against the fish and then folded against the regular, something like that.
Yeah, but that's the problem. We're not closing the action there on the button. Like,
No, but we
we have
don't need
no
to be
idea what he's
closing the
going to do.
action if we've got a plan for what we're doing against both players. My only issue there was the fish who made them in three bet stack was too big. So I wouldn't want to stack off for 50 blinds there with ace jack, but would have been happy stacking off for say 25 blinds.
Yeah, absolutely. And in that
Because I think
case, I would just
the
four bet
shorter
it
his stack
myself.
is, the wider he's going to get it in pre with, in my opinion. So you had a fish tag on someone there, and you didn't play 9-6 suited.
Probably, yeah.
We haven't,
I
the
have a
hand
fish
won't be up
tag.
there yet.
No, it's still in progress, right?
Yeah, it surprised me because the minute I see a fish tag, I'm looking to play as many playable hands as I can. The 9-6 suited's junk, don't get me wrong. But that said, I'm in position against a fish with a hand that can flop pretty well. So I'm that's the sort of spot I would have called, just to try and play pots with the fish. And I would have three bet the ace nine suit. This is exactly what I was talking about earlier. I'd start to look to three bet more often versus min raises because this happens way too often. We've got
Right, yeah.
now. We're playing four handed way too often, and it's hard to win at poker when we're playing four handed because we kind of need to have the best hand to win. Then when we play two handed, we play heads up. We don't have to have the best hand to win. When we play multi way, we usually have to have the best hand. So my two things I would say from this session are both kind of tie in the same way. Just try and take the initiative more. Try
Yeah,
and put the pressure back on your opponent. At the minute, you're not putting enough pressure on your opponents. You're letting them put all the pressure on you, which
exactly.
isn't
And
which
that's
isn't
why,
something you were doing when you were playing 10 and L.
yeah, that does make sense.
So
Yeah.
please, I'm not saying go and spew. I'm not saying please start going three betting left and right. But at times when you've got an option to take a passive option or an aggressive option, just try taking the aggressive option a little bit more. Just start putting the pressure back on your opponents. That's something you did really well at 10 and L. It's something you haven't done in this video.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. I think that's probably, or that has been the problem so far.
And
Because,
it's
yeah, as you mentioned, they're putting pressure on me. Like, they're baiting me into making mistakes.
yeah, and
And
without
at
being
10 and 0,
rude,
I'm baiting people to make mistakes.
because this isn't offensive at all. But when we move up, a lot of people are scared money, and people don't like to admit it. But it looks to me at the minute like you are just trying to be that little bit too cautious. You just try to find perfect situations. Whereas at 10 and L, you were happy dealing with imperfect situations and just embracing the variance that went with it. At the minute, it looks like you're trying to dodge variance a little bit. And usually, when you try and dodge variance, you end up not doing anywhere near as well because you can't cheat variance. All you're doing is you're storing up problems for later. That's
Right.
that's all you're doing. So just get in there and just play what was your natural 10-L game, which was putting pressure back onto your opponents. Um, I think you're just doing a little bit too much calling, a little bit too much checking.
Yeah, you're
That,
probably right. Going to defend my Jack 6. This is a board that we could be check raising.
this is absolutely board we can be check raising.
Once he checks, the ace is actually not a great card for. I think we can still check raise right now, because he's very likely to stab on this ace. I think with like all his air.
I like it. I like it.
I'm gonna make it fairly big as well.
And we can even
I
call
was
some
thinking
free
of
bets
betting
too.
myself, but that would leave us like in a suboptimal way. I think.
Yeah, no, I loved it because he should stab the ace with his entire range once we check twice. We've got an absolute ton of equity. So if we check raise there and he made it 12, we'd probably be getting the direct odds to call. Yet to grow spot, but it's hard for him to blow us off our hand there unless he just shoves us something stupid like that. Because we've got like 15 outs. So when we've got 15 outs, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to be folding. So yeah, I like the check raise there, and I would have considered calling. Just say we made it 4 and he made it 10. I think we'd have to just call there too. So it's not like we're always check raise folding, which is good.
Yeah, I was thinking of like betting it out myself, but then I figured like the ace like is a perfect card for him to like actually take a stab at this spot. And
Yeah, I
as you
loved
said,
it.
we have like so much equity there that we can just get away with check raising there.
Yep, I absolutely loved it. And these are all the
And
things
those
you
are
should
the
be doing.
spots
Looking to just
like
transfer the pressure.
yeah, at NL10 I would like do this without thinking of it, but like yeah, maybe it is the money. Like
I
it
think
is
it
like
probably is. No one wants to admit it, Patrick. It's not easy to admit that you're a little bit scared in anything in life. You know it's not, but it's really common. It's really natural, and the sooner you admit it or sooner you accept it might be part of the reason, the sooner you can deal with it, and the sooner you can make it not a problem anymore.
exactly like
There's no shame in admitting you're a little bit scared. When I play 100 nil in pounds on Sky, I'm a little bit scared sometimes, especially when I get up to like £200 deep. My ass is falling out half the time, but it's just I've got two options: don't play or play properly. And I usually don't play, but sometimes I play properly.
let's see if there's anything we can get value from here. He called on the flop. I think once we bet here and he raises it, yeah, we can never like call.
I would
Can
just
we
block
check
it
all
here. I'd block it
Yeah,
personally, like 390 something like that, because we can definitely get caught by an 8. We can get caught by a
I
jack.
like to go a little bit bigger, like $4, and he calls.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Love it.
Like, wow,
Wow. There
there's still money to be made here.
certainly is. There certainly is. I didn't expect
Oh
that.
my god.
You could have given me 10 guesses there, and the Queen 6 suited would not have been one of them. Although it does make a little bit of sense if you ignore his flop float.
And that's why I like betting this river, because once we check and pot is like $9 and he steps like let's say 8, we're gonna have
Yeah,
a really hard time finding a call there.
we certainly are. That's why bet
And
folding is really good there.
yeah, and that's also something I was like doing so confidently at 10 and L, like
Yeah,
finding my spots to go for tin value and stuff. And
that
it
was
has to do
absolutely
also with
beautiful.
yeah. I mean like it's not only the money that's giving me a hard time. I think it's also that like I have this complete note system at 10 and L. Like I've got like a label on pretty much every player. And
Yep.
then in here, it's pretty much like we're battling mostly unknowns
And it's not just the
so
money;
far.
it's also just a fear of failure too, because you're taking a shot up. It's quite a big deal to you because this is the first limit where you can actually start making an amount of money that can improve your quality of life. So it's a big deal. So you're going to have a natural fear of failure too, because you don't want to fail. So you're going to be scared of failing that little bit more. There's nothing wrong with any of that. It's all dead normal. But you're such a level-headed chap, and I've no doubt. All you're going to need is a few confidence-boosting sessions in a row, and you'll be flying. That's pretty
I don't
gross.
think we can fold here though.
I don't think we can, but it's
No.
gross, nevertheless.
My plan was to like jam any river anyways. You could have a deuce, well, good hand
Deuce is
turn then.
unlikely. You
You
might
could
have
have
King
like
Jack
four
though, which
five or
is
whatever, like a pocket pair. No, I'm just gonna call. He's ace
yeah,
king. That's fine.
it's pretty shitty. That we can do. He's going to be bad enough, you would imagine, with his stack size to have King Jack, King Ten, and do the same thing there.
Pretty much,
The
yeah.
deuce is a really good card for us because it just means he can't have a set of deuces, but he can't have quads very often. So yeah, just one of them things.
I don't mind spots like this. I think this is perfectly fine. Like,
Yeah.
and I have no problems like losing a pot like that as well.
The thing is, we always know he's doing it for value. Our problem is he can have worse value hands, so we have to call.
Exactly, and as I said, my plan was to like get it in on this river anyway. Like when we flop top pair against a 60 big blind stack, I'm pretty much considering it to be the nuts, unless proven like that he actually shows up with something.
Right, 3-bet. Oh, 3-bet the king queen. His Bazzy aces. He's got no money. Oh, he's got like less than a stack. That was a prime example where we could start considering 3-betting for thin value against small opens.
There's also a fish in the small blind though.
Well, there is, but
and probably
we
on
don't want to go. We
well.
don't want to be going multi-way too often, though. We want to be getting heads up in position against fish.
With the fish, yeah.
We're going two-way. We're going multi-way too often, which is part of the reason why I want us to start 3-betting more, because we are going
like
multi-way
raising
too
here,
often.
Because I want to get this guy out, and I think he's bad enough to call.
Are we going to just try and get money in here if he checks?
Yeah.
So we're happy like betting, turn, shoving, river.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out the sizing. I think 660 sounds about right. Oh, we do make 2 pair. It's not a
sweet river.
super
I think
great
it's a great
card.
river. I think it's great.
It does complete some straight draws, but yeah, we're obviously jamming here. We do pick up some showdown value here.
I don't think he has ace jack ever there. Well, not ever, that's wrong. But I don't think he calls a raise, then calls a turn with just a gut shot. I thought the queen was a fantastic card for us. Because
it's obviously great to make
we go ahead
pair.
of king 10 and ace king, which is really nice.
Yeah, that does make sense.
But we've been going for like an hour and 10, so we need to wind this up shortly, buddy, or people will be falling asleep halfway through our video. We're going a long time, and I've really enjoyed it.
I'm going to tap the sit out next big blind.
Yes, that sounds like a good thing to do.
Wow, I couldn't tell there was actually like an hour 10 already.
Time flies.
Time flies, yeah.
We're going to hope Bazza races shoves on us here because he hates us. That's what we're going to hope.
When he shoves, I'm obviously calling, but maybe I should like clarify my jacks thing again. Like against a 40 or 50 big blind stack, I have no problems with it.
Yeah, especially against someone we've just like triple barreled against who might be sore and pissed off with us.
He checks again, but I still think there's no value to get.
No, I would just go for value on the river. Just one street, I think.
Once he checks again, yeah. Once he bets, I'm probably even folding.
I wouldn't blame you for folding
it pretty
here.
weak.
We have played it pretty weak. I mean, calling or folding is going to be fine here. Just whatever you think. I maybe would call because I think we pissed him off twice, or at least once. And it's not the worst mistake in the world. I think we've kept the pot small enough where we can just call here. Personally.
Yeah, that does make sense. I'm just figuring this through in my head. Like, would he check his ace twice? It doesn't seem too likely. I think he can actually have a lot of stabs here as well.
Yeah.
When he gives us this price, we should probably call. Yeah.
There we go. Beautiful.
Okay.
That's kind of the whole point of keeping the pot small. Is we keep it small so we can then at least call some bluffs.
We can bluff catch. Yeah. I feel like sometimes I need to think stuff through like a little bit more before I start pushing buttons.
Well, that's kind of it's a hangover from you normally play 3 tables, so you're used to playing at a faster tempo. Then when we play 2, it's hard to slow down from that because your natural rhythm when you're playing poker is to play everything a little bit faster because you are playing more tables. Perhaps the first thing I would say to you is now you have moved up, until you feel really comfortable at 30, just stick to 2 tabling because your hourly rate's still going to improve from 10 and L.
Yeah, that does make sense, actually.
So perhaps until you feel comfortable, just give yourself that little bit more time when you're playing. Just allow yourself to think things through. And then once you feel established at the limit, then add your 3rd table again, no bother. But when you
Yeah,
move
I
up,
think that's
I would say
actually like a really good plan.
dropping a table just till you're comfortable with the different bet sizes, the different race sizes. Just get comfortable with it. Once you feel you're established, once you've maybe won 4 or 5 stacks, and you feel like, yep, we can try three tables again. Now, just do it when you don't have to play three tables just because it's an option. You know, playing two. If you were say three table in 10 and L and you were beating it for 6 blinds 100 at 700 hands an hour, that's what, $5 an hour. Two table in
Yep.
30 and L, you're probably going to be getting $7 or $8 an hour, I would imagine. So you're still improving your hourly rate by two tabling. So it's not like it's not costing you anything really. It's just going to make this
Yeah,
transition
exactly.
that little
I,
bit
I
smoother.
really like that idea of just like two tabling for a little while.
I
I
mean, you
think
add your
it
third
certainly
table as
can't
soon as you're
hurt.
ready. I'm not saying two table forever. As soon as you're ready, add that third table. But there's no rush to add the third table. If the third table's just putting that bit too much pressure on you, just take it away for now. You don't need it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really happy we did this session because I feel like that is probably like calling too much out of position and like getting pressure put on us has probably been my problem so far.
Yeah, we just need to
Just need to
transfer the
get back
pressure back
into
to other
that
people.
mindset. Yeah, exactly.
Part of being a
That's
good
it.
poker player is having the skill to put pressure on others. And you didn't seem to be putting much pressure on anyone for the first like 40 odd minutes of that session.
Yeah,
Then towards
and
the end, you started playing a little bit better. We check raised the Jack Six. We put a couple of nice thin value bets in, and you definitely started playing better towards the end than you were playing at the start.
yeah, definitely. And I felt the same way. I mean, like I've obviously got stuff to work on, but when I can play my like comfortable and confident 10 game
Yeah.
at this at these stakes, I mean, the win rate should be like maybe it's a little bit lower because there's less fish, but we should definitely be winning at this limit.
Well, you know what I think about you. I've got every confidence in you because you're super level-headed, and you'll figure it out. You really will. I mean, you're just too good, too sensible, too ambitious not to. So you will figure it out. Just don't let yourself, if you hit any bumps in the road, don't let it knock you too much. If I was you now, because I know you said about moving back down to 10 and L some of the time, I really wouldn't. I'd try and stick this as long as I could. Because I think you will crack it. All you need to do is just not run bad, and you'll
Yeah, I
very
won
soon
three
be
billions
established.
yesterday though at 30
Good
three and a
stuff.
half actually, so
Yeah,
that's really good.
all you need is just a week of doing okay, and you'll just feel established then, and then you won't be looking back down at 10 anymore. It's
Yeah,
understandable how
exactly.
you might want to go back to your comfort zone. When you're out of your comfort zone, you're like, ooh, and you feel a bit uncomfortable. Everything feels alien to you. And then 10 and L looks super sexy to go back to, but don't do it. Just try and stick it out until. I mean, obviously, if you have a huge downswing, move back down, of course. But if you're just breaking even and you're just kind of wanting to think, oh, I'm not really beating these games, while you're breaking even, just stick it out. And with it, unquestionably, you'll crack it. Because at the minute, we've got like a really good study group. You've got some people like Julius and a couple of others who you're all helping each other along. You've got me to fall back on, and you've got the fact that you're just a really solid person. So, I mean, you're going to make it easily. You just got to have a bit of faith in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that's stuff we've got to work on in the coming months and weeks, I guess.
Yes. Well, what we'll do next week or the week after, we'll do another 30 video just to see how much we've moved on from this one, and then we'll save the last two for when we get to 50 and that'll be a really sweet series then.
That sounds really great. Yeah, definitely.
Excellent stuff. Right, buddy, we're going to call it a day now because we've been going forever, and Reddit people will be cross because we've made a really long video. But I think it's been really good, so I don't really care. So we'll leave it for now, and yeah, we'll catch people up in a couple of weeks.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna say thanks for watching then, I guess. And
Yeah,
of course, thank you for coaching.
my pleasure.
I
See you in
feel
a bit,
like
sir.
this could have been like the bump I needed to like get back rolling into 30 now.
Let's hope so. See you in a bit.
All right, see ya. Bye.